2, 1. Welcome to Last Two Pages, where two best friends who love to read just can't keep it to themselves. My name is Teresa.
And my name is Megan. And on this episode, we will be discussing tropes, bookish tropes, and our favorite romance tropes.
Yeah. Welcome back, everybody.
How are we feeling?
Thank you for tuning in again. That last week didn't scare you off.
We promise we'll get better as we go on.
Bear with us, please. We love you.
You're so sweet. How have you been?
I started a new job and
Congrats.
it's been super fun. And life, I need a structure to my life. So having a job that's like, go to the office at this time, go here. Having a bedtime, like a strict bedtime, like I have to be getting up at 7 a.m. has been so helpful.
That's super nice.
And it's super great because then I'm like in bed at 8 p.m. reading a book and then going to bed at 10 p.m.
Is it easy for you to like read a book before bed? Is
As
that like your main time? I mean, I don't know. Like when I go to bed reading a book, I will stay up until 2 a.m. Like I have to not read before bed.
I don't know. I have this thing called self-control. So
Great. Yeah, no, I don't know. Like I can't read it. I think my eyes are just tired by the end of the day, but I also read all day. So
and you listen. So you're able to do that as you're doing other things. And I can only really listen unless when I'm driving or like audiobooking when I'm driving or when I'm cleaning. Otherwise, I just, like what I said last week, I need that in my hand. Even if it's on Kindle, I need to smell it.
It's like a focus thing for you.
Yeah,
Got
I need
it.
all my attention. And then my brain can just go blank and I go into the land of make-believe. And never leave.
In the land of make-believe, what do you like the most about books in general? Like, what do you look for when you're choosing a book?
Oh, so lately I've been a strictly fantasy person, but I also really love historical fiction and sci-fi, but fantasy has just come to the main focus. And
so you're more of a genre person
than I am
anything else. Okay, that's so interesting.
When it comes to people discussing books and what I'm looking for in a book, I usually go to genre first, but then the next thing I do go is tropes.
Okay, got it. And
that's something that's been really helpful on Bookstagram lately is when people write reviews, they'll include the tropes that book has or a few of them, which I guess are kind of spoilers. They are, but they're spoilers I want because I like to know that that's going to be in the book so that when I read it, I know there's something I like in it because tropes really help progress a plot for me and just make things a little more delicious.
That's totally fair. I know that when I do reviews at the Blonde Registry, I have a set amount of tropes that I'll talk about, and that's it. I won't add to that list. And it's there's not a bunch about romance or anything specific. It's just kind of this is sci-fi. There's a love triangle. There's a death trope, stuff like that, where it's not specific or explicit. It's just kind of you might find these things in here. But
yes, but what is a trope?
A trope is a word that would refer to a figure of speech or a theme or a character or plot that's used many times. So if you think to a famous classic, Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, Shakespeare.
Yeah. What tropes would you think Romeo and Juliet would have?
Dumb kids.
Okay. Not that.
What happens in Romeo and Juliet? Okay, so they fall in love.
Come on, AP English.
I distinctly remember in my AP English class when we read this, my teacher's like, you're going to love the voice actors or whatever because I was in theater at the time and I hated it. They were so bad. And I was like, ma'am, this hurts, but I was just a snob because I'm a high school theater kid, so it's like I was annoying.
Nothing's changed.
I've grown.
Nothing's changed.
No, I'm different now. I promise.
I don't know. When I think of Romeo and Juliet, I mean, that's the death trope. You know, for me, it's enemies to lovers. Not them necessarily, but they start out as enemies.
I guess
you
it's
know?
also
like,
love at first sight.
their families. Yeah. I would say fated mates.
Yeah.
Or fated relationship, or, you know, that kind of stuff. Or dad doesn't approve trope. I don't know if that's a trope really, but
from the other side of the tracks.
yeah, there's a bunch of stuff within that book that's seen bunches and bunches of time throughout all sorts of books and movies and other stuff that we consume as human beings who need stimulation for our brains to survive.
It's also, and things we just see in real life.
Yeah, I would say when I'm looking for a book, I look through tropes. It's more often that I don't like than I do.
Oh, okay. That's so real.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big, like, age gap when it comes to, like, contemporary romance. I know. Fantasy's a different world. But, I don't know, single dad makes me kind of feel weird. When it's like, you're the nanny, it's just kind of, whenever I see that, I kind of
You're a victim type of thing.
Yeah, it feels a little... And some people, they love that. And honestly, good for them. It just makes me kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah. I think tropes really like separate us as readers in the way that like we're all united readers, you know?
Yeah.
But like so many people like hate reading sci-fi or absolutely no fiction books.
People hate historical fictions.
Yeah.
And I just think they've read the wrong ones because I love historical fictions. They can be so good. Ugh. And I don't know. It's a fake way to learn about something real.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because honestly, the real stories make me a lot more sad.
Oh.
Like with Book Thief, it covers the Holocaust in a more...
The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak is
You
a
can't
great
romanticize
book.
the Holocaust. Okay,
No.
that's not what's being done. But it makes it less scary, more digestible.
You like the perspective of a child.
I guess so, yeah.
I would say that's what you like about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, oh, wow, that is what I like in historical fictions.
A quick dissection in your brain. Yeah. You like the perspective of someone who isn't a key player and can make decisions throughout history, but is affected by them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's what it is.
I would say my favorite trope when reading is forced proximity. Forced proximity is where the two main characters are forced to be around each other from an external source.
Yeah.
It's not like we're working together because we have to. It's more of like we are the only two people on the planet, or we have to get this thing done, or physically you're not allowed to be apart from each other.
The world will fall apart if we don't stop the bomb.
Yeah. Do you have a good example of that? I'm trying to think right now of forced proximity, but nothing's coming to my brain.
I think you know what the best forced proximity is.
Are we already going to be talking
At
about
least
these
you.
books?
It's your favorite books of ever. And we touched on them last episode, so we have to bring them up again.
Every episode we're going to be talking about these books.
You didn't really go into what they're about.
No, we can get into it. So the best example I have of forced proximity is from These Broken Stars by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. It's my favorite book of all time. There's not much to say about it, but in terms of forced proximity, the two main characters
There's actually a lot to say about it.
From different sides of the tracks, right? We have a pampered heiress and we have not a war criminal, a war hero. Sorry, I was like, what?
A military general.
So yeah, Tarver is a major in the military
Not
of
general.
space, whatever, right? For his bravery on quelling a rebellion on one of the planets, right? And he's on this whole mission thing on this spaceship that they're on, and Lilac is also on that spaceship because it's kind of just like a vacation for her from, I'm getting way too into the weeds on this and I can't stop
That's fair. No, I think you're doing a good little intro there. And, well, Lilac, her dad runs the biggest major corporation in the galaxy. And they're on this spaceship together. But, oh no, spoilers, it crashes. The only two survivors, Tarver, Lilac, alone on an abandoned planet. Mm-hmm. Forced together.
And proximity. They hate each other.
Oh,
like horrible hate each other. Like Tarver is just trying to keep this girl alive, and the last thing she wants to do is be anywhere near him. And unfortunately, he's the only way that she's about to survive on this planet. It's completely abandoned, and they go on this whole journey together to try and figure out how they're going to get off.
And everyone's dead.
Everyone is dead. So
that's a wonderful forced proximity. It's also a really good enemies to lovers, which is my favorite trope.
Really?
Yes.
Tell me about enemies to lovers.
Enemies to lovers is pretty straightforward. It's in the name. But it is when you have two characters that hate each other. My favorite type of enemies to lovers is when it's a true enemies to lovers, you know what I mean? Where it's they hate each other. They despise, can't stand, hate, or hate how much they love them, you know, that type of vibe. This is best seen in The Cruel Prince by Holly Black for me. I love this series in general because it's a fun little modern fairy. It follows the mortal. I pulled up the summary because frankly it's just easier. And it says, the novel follows the mortal 17-year-old Jude Duarte as she becomes embroiled in the perilous political conspiracies of the immortal fairy realm. As a coming-of-age story, The Cruel Prince explores themes of truth, power, and identity. Well, wow. Yeah. And basically, Jude from the human world is forced to the fairy world because her stepdad. It's messy. You just have to read it, okay? It's still good. Even if I'm spoiling some, it's still good. Read it. And Cardan, they go to school together, and he's the prince, and he is an asshole. He is terrible to her.
He's evil.
Like, almost drowns her. But you learn more about that later and, like, why it's happening. And what's fun about this world of fairies is that they can't lie. And that's one of my favorite types of fairy because it just makes what they say so much more fun. Mm-hmm. And then he says things like, have I told you how bad you look tonight? And she goes, no. And he's like, I can't. Like, stuff like that. You love to see it. And it makes you, like, kick your legs and giggle.
I'd be kicking my legs currently, so.
And they, spoiler alert, end up together. But it is a long journey, and it takes a lot for them to stop being enemies.
I agree.
Like, Jude is not a fan.
But when they don't, like, when they're not enemies anymore and, like, overcome all the things that had made them enemies, like, they are inseparable. Mm-hmm. And I love that about their relationship.
Yeah.
Is that Cardan would do anything for Jude.
Yeah.
He literally does anything for Jude.
And then I do like how it ends then. Because as much as I love fluff, honestly, novellas and stories, there are novellas in this series, but novellas and other stories are usually fluff of just like characters who go through really big hardships together, being happy. And I like that. Just a little bookmark there. I like that.
I think Cardan and Jude are also a really good example of fated mates. That trope.
Yes.
Fated mates are basically when the two main characters are destined by, in this example, the cauldron or God or
what
the
example
fates.
Do you mean?
Oh my God. We are now going to be talking about fated mates from A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas.
Or A Court of Mist and Fury.
Specifically.
Spoilers, but we already said that. So, fated mates, our favorite duo for fated mates is Rhysand and Feyre. The Feyre, the main protagonist in, is that the right word? Protagonist?
Yeah,
in A Court of Thorns and Roses, and her journey. In the first book, she's with another guy. But in the second book, you find out this other guy that she thinks is the bad guy is actually her mate.
Whoa.
And what's a mate?
A mate is, I would assume, my understanding of a mate, it's different in every book, but it's something that is God blessed. You were given this one person on this earth to be with, and that is your only option. Normally in the book, they make you better, stronger, more powerful, a higher version of yourself, your third eye.
Yeah, these are Sarah J. Maas fated mates, and they're pretty much the same through her series like Crescent City and Throne of Glass and ACOTAR. That once you meet your mate and accept the bond, is it a string or is it a thread, snaps into place. And they're united.
Woven throughout time and history and, you know, whatever. But I feel like even in other series, it's very common. Like a mate is someone that makes you better, stronger, whatever, like is destined for you. So
yeah,
that whole destiny part of books is really cool. So specifically with Feyre and Rhysand, as they are also enemies to lovers, you kind of get this snapshot of Rhys understanding that they're mates.
And forced proximity.
True. They really cover all of these.
He forces
tropes.
her to come to he runs the night court. He forces him to come,
Like
her to come to his home for 2 weeks out of every month. And her man back home, not happy, but he's a little toxic, so it's okay, because then she realizes, Rhysand actually isn't that controlling, even though I'm like supposed to stay in this room. But if I ask him things, he'll answer and take me along and wait. Why are his eyes glistening? Why is he kind of sexy? And then why is he teaching me to read? She can't read. Fun fact. Until Rhys teaches her.
I'm dumbfounded by your explanation of this.
Hey,
you're not wrong, but I wouldn't necessarily call you right either.
What do you mean? I think that's exactly. It gives context.
Real. Specifically about fated mates in A Court of Thorns and Roses. Feyre and Rhysand, it's something where Feyre newly becomes Fae, where she was a human before, and it's really important in Rhysand that she has the ability of choice. So he finds out that they're mates before she does, and doesn't tell her for most of their time together in the first few books. And so I think specifically that point of them being mates is really interesting, the way
where he knows and
Sarah
she
wrote
is
that.
just realizing that there's something between them.
She just thinks it's like she's attracted to him or feels drawn to him
She
or
feels a pull.
something. But Rhysand knows this whole time that Feyre is the only one for him that will make him stronger, better, and quite literally like love of his life. So and that's hard because he's also taking her from who she believes she loves, and
so it's messy,
actively
and
abusing her, and you know, all of that. So it's a really cool story with fated mates, but it also covers so many good tropes that we already talked about, like Teresa mentioned, where it's there is a forced proximity part of it where Feyre is not allowed to leave, and she has to be around Rhysand, and enemies to lovers where they were not friends before, and Rhys was not nice to Feyre in the beginning of their time together, but
you learn why later.
Yeah.
And if you are one of the people that hasn't read the series A Court of Thorns and Roses, it is a really good intro romantasy. And that's why we said in the previous episode it helped us get into the world at all, because it's really digestible and a lot happens and a lot is going to happen.
Absolutely.
What we've talked about, if you didn't notice, are our 3 favorite tropes in books, or romance tropes, which are forced proximity, enemies to lovers, and fated mates. And you see them done over and over again, but I'm never sick of them. And there's something that it's always a yes, or it's always added to the TBR if I see it on there. And or even if it's not added to the TBR, I know that that's something that like, oh, that will scratch an itch in my brain.
Got it. So it might take you out of your current reading slump, one might say. I can feel that emotion from here.
One can only hope. I mean, I'm reading.
Just not, 700 pages a day, which probably is healthy.
Yeah, but I kind of miss it.
What are you currently reading right now?
What are we reading this week? So, last week I talked about how I'm reading 39 Clues, and I am still reading 39 Clues. Not a lot of progress has been made because I still be schlumping. And I stand by what I said last week about how 39 Clues is a great little series to read. I love the mystery of it all. Like, you don't know what the next clue is, and you still don't know what all of these clues lead to, and why did your aunt just abandon you, or, well, their grandma, whatever, died and left them with no information. And then they find out things, and they're slowly finding out more and more things about their family and their history. So it's been good. I just haven't.
What's your favorite part about those books?
Progressed. What do you mean?
Like,
I
don't know.
I would say.
What are you enjoying? What are you not enjoying about your current read?
Ooh, I love the constant ties to big historical figures. I always love, even if it's not real, like a background on a historical figure, that they were part of a secret group and that they were tied to this other historical figure, and they knew that, and they did this and this and this together. I really like that.
For example, in the second book, it talks a lot about how Mozart is connected to Marie Antoinette and Benjamin Franklin, and it really goes into it. It's really cool.
And what I don't like is when cousins kiss. So that
not
happened.
always a deal breaker for everyone, but
That's true. I only accept it in Game of Thrones, honestly.
Okay.
Because it's forgivable.
Yeah, sure.
George R.R. Martin, he must like his cousin.
He had goals, and he was going to achieve them in that book.
I wonder if his real life cousins ever wondered.
No.
If he was into them.
I don't think so.
Well,
that'd be a choice, though.
Maybe. What are you reading right now?
I recently just finished Caraval by Stephanie Garber. That series, it was given to me as a Christmas present from last year. Thank you, Crinkled Pages.
Oh, love you.
It was a great series to read. I really liked the magic systems. I really liked the characters. I feel like they all had a very specific voice throughout the series, and there was so much mystery that I wasn't expecting. You know, normally when you read a fantasy series, you're kind of like, everything gets shoved down your throat. Like all the magic, all the background, all the whatever. And I felt like this was a definite, like, you are learning with the character. You are discovering their history as much as they're discovering the history of the world. So it was really cool. It was a really good read. I would recommend it. I audiobooked half of it. I will say that. And I really enjoyed the voice actor for them.
I'm definitely excited to get into that series, especially because isn't it the prequel to A
Curse for True Love, or whatever that series is. The Broken Heart one. Yes, you're correct. Yeah. I can't remember the full name to that book series at
I know that
this
hurts
given
my brain.
moment. But yes, I think it's a prequel. The characters from that series also show up in Caraval and vice versa, which is really cool.
Once Upon a Broken Heart.
That's the word.
It leads into that. Or there's similar characters. And I hear a lot of buzz constantly about Once Upon a Broken Heart. So it is one I want to read, and I want to read Caraval first.
Caraval's a really good series. I recommend it as a winter series, honestly.
Interesting.
Normally I'm a sci-fi winter reader, but I feel like those books would go really well in the winter.
Why?
I think that based on what's happening in the series, it's a lot of like, we're out in dresses and it's summer, but it's snowing in the summer, and it's just a lot of like weird magic that happens within it that I feel like it's a good like bundle up cozy read.
Okay.
It's dark outside. It's dark through most of the books. Like, it's normally happening during nighttime. So I feel like it's a good one to read at night.
I get that. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? At least where we're from, it gets dark at like 4 p.m. So you have a lot of time in the evenings to read after, you know, your corporate 9 to 5.
I'm not leaving the house once it gets dark. That is
strictly forbidden.
It gets dark at 4, and I'll be eating dinner at like 6 o'clock, and I'm like, someone will ask me to do something, and it is 10 o'clock right now. You cannot force me to leave.
I love that for you.
I don't know. I don't like driving in the dark.
You're so brave.
I know.
You're so brave.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Last 2 Pages.
And if you didn't, don't tell me I might cry, but actually do, because we want to be better. Aha! We'll see you on the next page.